Welcome to the About Sex podcast, where we discuss
finances.
No, wait. Yeah, actually, we are discussing that today. So normally we discuss sex on the podcast
and relationships,
and people do have sex, and a lot of times they don't have sex because they're arguing about their finances.
That is true. That's why we thought it would be a good idea to discuss it today.
My name is Josh, and with me, as always, is my lovely wife, Angela Skirtu. Tell us who you are, Angela.
My name is Angela Skirtu. I'm a licensed marriage therapist and an ASEX certified sex therapist. And today our guest is Robert Bertman of Family Budget Expert. Here, we're going to give this back to you, dear.
Well, thank you.
All right, so tell us a little more about yourself, Robert. What do you do? Why are you important? That kind of stuff.
Why are you an expert?
Why am I an expert? Well, that's a very good question.
Why should we listen to you?
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I have 3 kids of my own. I've also, I did the house buying thing. I've been in the financial industry, but more as a financial advisor, financial planner for over 15 years. And had a lot of great experiences, helped a lot of couples. But what I found is that, as I was helping people with retirement planning and college planning and things like that, the biggest challenges that I find people face is mainly around spending.
Definitely.
And specifically,
we're all arguing about spending.
Yeah, we spend too much, and then we don't have any money to spend more.
We had one of those conversations this week, didn't we, dear?
Yeah, that was yesterday.
Not at all uncommon. I'm sure, everyone has them, right?
Yeah.
Right?
And so,
Definitely around tax season.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
right?
yeah, exactly.
I bet you get a lot more work around tax season.
Yeah, I mean, people are either like, what do I do with my tax refund? Or they're,
they're screwed because they can't pay
we have no
they
money.
can't pay the tax bill. No.
So how do you help them?
Right. Well, that's a good question. So when I was doing financial planning, and as I've, well networked in the advisory world and planning world, that many people can design like the best financial plan, but the problem is it just sits in the drawer because people don't know how to come up with the money to fund the goals. So if, you need money to retire, or you want to buy a house, or you want to send your kids to college. They're like, oh, that sounds great. You mean all I have to do is come up with $2,000 a month to get all that done in savings? So that,
wow,
that's simple.
That's easy peasy.
Yeah, well, I'll just write a check. Done. No.
Right, exactly.
Most people don't have $2,000
Most
extra
people
in their
spend
budget.
the majority of their money, I would say.
All of it and extra. That's what credit cards are for.
Yeah.
Right. That's what they're for. Exactly.
Yeah, that's what they're for.
Okay.
Is so you can
When you screw
so
up.
you can live beyond your means, and then never pay it.
Deal with it later.
And then you just
Yeah.
die.
Well, you just die.
That's
in
my hope
debt.
for.
Yeah. That's our plan. I'm gonna die in massive debt. I don't want to leave my kids anything.
Oh gosh, we only have one kid. Sorry, Olivia.
Sorry,
Yeah.
Libby, you ain't getting nothing.
Right.
So how does one do this?
Right. Well, it's a good question. It's like the traditional budgeting techniques just don't work for people, right? So, most people are living paycheck to paycheck or beyond, like you said, Josh, right?
What are the? I don't think everybody knows what the traditional budgeting techniques are. So what are the traditional ones that you're fighting against?
What is this budget thing you speak of?
No, I'm serious. I talk to couples about this all the time. So
Yeah.
I'm curious.
No, I mean it's not easy. In fact, it's complicated. I'd say maybe like 5 to 10% of people actually love budgeting, but that leaves the other 90 to 95%
Nobody
out.
likes it. Come on.
You tolerate it.
Right. Yeah. Some
I
people
hate
tolerate
doing it. Every time we've actually sat down and written out all of how we
All the
spend our money in a
expenses.
single month, it's always just so depressing. I'm like, I don't want to look at that anymore.
Right. That's very common. That's
Yeah.
why people don't do it, is because they, so traditional budgeting, to answer your question, is, think about the pie chart, and they think about, I have this much going to my house, this much going to my kids, this much going to food, this much going, and what they do is they say, okay, well, this month I'm only going to spend $1,000 on food. And I know my kid's daycare expense is $200 a week or $300 a week, so let me create a budget item for that.
Right.
The problem is that people don't stick to it. I don't know if you've ever been out to drinks or dinner with friends.
Yeah.
Oh
And-
yes,
Have you ever?
Yes.
we've done
We
this.
have.
I've heard of this entertainment situation.
Actually, recently.
We just
Right.
did it
On
on Friday.
Friday.
Tell us about it.
Right. I don't know if any of you listening have ever been out for drinks with friends or out to dinner, but
What is this friend thing?
I'm already laughing because we had this plan when we went out. We were like, we're going to eat before, and we're not going to
We're not
spend
gonna spend
anything
a lot of
except
money.
on drinks.
Right.
And we still ended up spending like
$70.
$70. We were like, how did we spend so much money? Because drinks are actually pretty expensive out,
Yeah.
apparently.
yeah, you're not alone. I don't
Yeah.
want to say you'll be happy to know you're not alone, but you're not alone.
Yeah.
So because what happens is, most people when they go out, let's say they have a budget for the month, or this week they're going to spend $100 or $200 on food.
Sure.
It's not like if you're out with friends and they reach that limit on budget. Number one, they may not even know that they've reached the limit. Number two is they're not going to say, Hey, Angela, Josh, sorry, I just hit my budget for the month. I'm out of here. I'll see you next month when my budget resets.
Yeah,
You're like,
exactly.
oh, and I can't take the Uber home, so I'm going to be walking home
Yeah.
because that's not my budget
Yeah,
either. Like
exactly.
people just don't do that.
No, they just keep spending.
Right.
Yeah.
So budgets require some structure, and so there's a lot of flaws in that system. So another thing that people are told is save 10% of your income. Well, sometimes people's income is inconsistent. Sometimes they're not in a situation where they can save that amount. Sometimes they need to save less, or maybe they can save more. And then budget categories are based upon where the money goes, but they're not based upon its importance to you. Right. And so
they'll set like percentages that you're supposed to put to different things in your budget or something. Is that what the pie chart is suggesting?
yeah.
Okay.
And it gets so complicated because you're like, okay, well, here's how much we spend on groceries and here's how much we spend on dining out, and then going out to movies, or now we have something going wrong with our house we have to fix.
Right. There's the
That
surprise
happens
expenses.
all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We learned that the first year of our marriage, that every month there's something surprising
Surprise!
along
You're broke.
along the horizon, and you're like, yeah.
Yeah. Surprise, you're broke again.
Oh no. Yeah, we kept trying to do budgets, and we kept like falling short because there'd be this $200 or $300 every month that just like was a surprise expense.
Yeah, and it's no different than exercising or eating, where it's like you have the best of intentions, and then the toe just approaches the line, then it goes a little bit over, and then all
And you're
of a
like,
sudden
well, I'm already
whatever."
over. You might as well just go all
And
in.
now you're
Yeah.
borrowing from
Yeah.
one section to pay for the other section.
Credit cards.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's what that's what we're taught to do, and it's a totally flawed system. And like I said, maybe 1 out of every 10 or 20 people can make that happen, but most people, it's just not how we operate in day-to-day life.
Yeah, it doesn't work.
So how does the rest of the human population do this?
How do
then?
successful
Well, they
people do
don't.
it? Yeah.
Most
Most people don't budget at all.
No, they avoid it because, like
Yeah.
you said, that most people. Here's the way it usually works: is you get your at the end of the month you get your credit card bill, and you're like, oh, I can't believe we spent that much.
Right.
Where did our money go?
Yeah.
And then
I ask
you're
that
like,
all the time.
right, and then you're like, okay, well, this month we're going to make some changes. And
Yeah.
then you wait till next month the credit card bill comes. You're like, it's the same number. Like, how do we
How
do
did
this?
this
How
happen?
did this
Yeah.
happen?
Or it's worse.
Or it's
Or it's
worse.
worse.
So that's
December comes around. Yeah.
right, and it's
Christmas.
so
yeah.
Yeah.
exactly. So that's what most people end up doing, and that's their approach to budgeting. And it just doesn't work. And then they feel bad because they feel like they should be doing something, but they don't have the right.
They don't feel like they
technique.
have control over it.
Exactly.
Yeah. And then when people don't feel like they have control over something, they just give up.
Yeah.
Like, that's the response.
Well,
You
you-
either
well-
give up or panic in some
So
way.
if you think of anxiety, there's two responses to anxiety. So people either try to control everything or they avoid it like the plague. And so
Yeah.
you can imagine like if you're over controlling, you're like, what are you spending? Where are you going out? What are we going to do this with this? Those are the two most
exactly my
natural
method to
responses.
money.
I know,
Yeah.
honey. I got it by watching
Either
you.
give it
I
up-
learned it by watching you.
Either give up entirely or over micromanage how the money's spent.
Yep.
I'm so glad we have a certified therapist. This is
To explain
fantastic.
some of these concepts
Yeah.
for why people do what they do. So how do you help people do it differently? I guess not budgeting is what you're doing.
Yeah, the unbudgeting technique.
What is
Unbudgeting.
this? I'm so confused.
Is the keep, cut back, eliminate thing you listed here?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so what is that?
So like most people, and like you, right? When you have a kid, all of a sudden things get tight. You all right
No,
over there?
Josh
Go
is
on.
choking. You can keep talking.
I
He's
just
just
wanna
going to
make-
die over
Keep
there.
going, I'll just keep coughing in the mic. Go ahead.
All right, so tell us more.
Yeah. So most people, when they have a child, that rocks their world in more ways than one.
Yeah.
Finances, sex, obviously, relationship. It all affects everything.
Oh,
Right, and
yeah.
we were talking about that. Like when you have a kid, you don't realize how many things are going to pop up. Like it's not just the big medical bill at the front. All of a sudden, you call them startup costs.
Yeah.
You have to buy a
Startup
crib.
costs.
You have to buy a car
Yeah.
seat. You have to.
We just had to buy her a bed.
You have to-
'cause she went to a toddler
a big
bed.
girl bed.
You have to clothe them and feed them every
I
day.
know, and you're not allowed to leave them in kennels. That's what the doctor says.
And when people said, oh, it costs like $18,000 a year to raise a kid, I was like, no, that couldn't happen.
Oh yeah.
Oh, it
was
does.
Oh
surprised
yeah, it does.
how much we
sometimes
spend
more,
on that
depending
kid,
on
yeah.
what you choose to put them in and get them involved
Yeah,
in.
exactly.
Yeah. So I came up with this technique after my first son was born, and this was 8 years ago, almost 8.5 years ago or whatever.
Sure.
And I was thinking, this budgeting thing doesn't work. And I'm a finance person. Like, I should be good at this.
You're a finance guy, and you couldn't even do the
Right,
budget thing.
exactly.
Wow.
And my wife is very financial oriented. She's in the financial world now too.
Yeah.
And we didn't really, she actually could do it. I couldn't do it. Is right.
Yeah.
So really, you were the problem. So you need to
Yeah,
come up with a
right.
solution for yourself.
In case you're
Right.
watching, Anna, I'm giving you credit that you can actually do it, and I can't.
Yeah.
I couldn't.
It's all him. Yeah.
Yep. Well, hey, we all have our issues, and so you got to do some self-awareness there. But so you came up with this new system for yourself,
Yeah. So
and others,
right? So we were asking ourselves the question: how can we have some semblance of quality of life while raising a child? And the startup costs, like buying the crib, and then sending, the 3Ds of parenting, as I call them: daycare, diapers, and doctor bills.
Yeah.
Right. So you have those things that come up, and so I thought, well, this is silly. Budgeting doesn't tell us at all what it means to us. It just tells us where our money goes.
Right.
So this technique called keep, cut back, eliminate that I created, it's about what it means to you, and everyone's different, right? Everyone has different hobbies, everyone has different interests. Some people like traveling, some people like to just be homebodies. Some people like
we're travelers.
yeah. And so it's not for anyone to prescribe you should cut out coffee, or you should not go on vacations, or you should mow your own lawn. That stuff, that advice is just doomed to fail, because that's all the fun stuff.
Right.
But with Keep, it's a 3-category budgeting system that people can use to, and on average, my clients have cut their spending by over 11% without feeling like they're missing out, and without a complicated budget. Like
that'd be
that's
nice.
the number one
Okay.
thing, right?
Yeah.
And so the way that it works is, so there's 3 categories: are keep, cut back, eliminate. The first category, keep. These are things that couples go through, and they analyze we take them through and analyze their transactions, and think about it like the things that would bring a smile to your face. Like, oh, I'm really glad we spent money on that. Like, I'm really glad we took that trip.
Like
eating
massages.
food. I like
Massages.
massage.
Those bring a smile to my face, honey.
Sure, they do. They're also expensive. Go on.
I know.
Yeah, exactly. Well,
Exactly.
and we'll get to
We'll get there.
right. And
You didn't know this, but secretly this was a chance for you to help. No, I'm just kidding.
no, but that's actually this keep category. I'm going to give you something that's going to help you out, Angela, since you're the one who loves
Awesome,
massages
awesome.
and you don't. I'm sorry, Josh.
No, I
He
love
loves them
massages
too.
too.
He's
Right.
just trying to control the finances because he's worried about taxes.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
So keep are things that you enjoy or find satisfaction or fulfillment in.
Right.
Things that help you reduce your stress, or maybe they help build your income. And obviously they're necessities, but I use the word necessity kind of loosely because
Right.
like
Someone
food
could
have
is a
Because
necessity.
you don't need a massage. You
Right.
don't need a trip to Mexico, but it's really awesome.
well, and like rent, like someone could choose to rent a place for $500, or they could choose to rent a place for $4,000, but they
Right.
could each be put in the necessity category. It depends on what someone considers as a necessity.
Right.
And then, so whatever fits in that category, couples should feel okay with spending money in that area. And the key takeaway for couples is that if one of you says it's a keep for both.
Okay.
No, that's a cool rule because we do that in couples therapy too. If it's a
Do you?
problem for one person,
It's
then
a
it's a problem
problem
for
for
both.
everybody.
It keeps people from blaming each other. 'Cause
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
a real common thing. You
Yeah.
couples, you're always blaming each other for something.
Right. And with spending, couples butt heads all the time, and usually it's
Oh,
over the
yeah.
things that they care mostly about, that they want to keep in their lives.
Yeah.
And so what we do is say, if it's a keep for one, it's a keep for the other. Let's just start with that, so that then we kind of dissolve that conflict, and then you can work together as a couple. And then for couples, especially in the keep category, if you think about it 3 ways: there's a keep for one spouse, there's a keep for the other spouse, and then there's a keep for you two to do together, for the couple to do together.
Right.
So that's the keep category. The cutback category are things, we're not talking about drastic changes. We're just talking about moderate reductions where you won't really feel like you miss out on the experience.
Right.
So going out to eat is a perfect example. If you went out to dinner, and you have that bill, right, the $70 bill, it's not like we're not going to do that again. We're going to cut that out cold turkey.
It's instead cut it back.
Yeah, it's
Like maybe once a week instead of twice a week.
right. Or instead of $70 bill, maybe you try to get it to be a $55
spend
bill or a
less, yeah.
$50 bill.
Yeah. Or just do Taco Bell.
Or Taco Bell, right? Taco Bell is actually a way to cut back spending on tacos as opposed to doing it at home.
Oh, yeah.
Making tacos at home is expensive.
It's
compared
cheaper
to
to do it
Really?
at Taco Bell.
Oh yeah.
Well, I guess it's like $1 for a taco.
I don't
Maybe
want to say it's healthier, but it or more fun.
Interesting.
One of my buddies,
I didn't
he's like,
think about that.
one of my buddies is like, my wife wants to do taco night, and
We do
just end up
taco night
spending,
every
like-
week.
Yeah, we end up spending like $20 on tacos, and I could just go to Taco Bell and
Spend 15 or 10.
spend 10. Anyway, that's a
Interesting.
bad attempt at a
You
joke.
just
but-
blew
No,
my mind.
you
I'm
just
like,
blew
is
my
it
mind.
really?
right.
I
like-
thought eating out was always more expensive.
We were thinking about like Little Caesars the other day, and you know how you like go to the store and you buy these pizzas, but it's just as easy to grab a Little Caesars because
The
they do the
$5
$5
pizza,
pizza on
Yeah.
the way home, and it's
Pizza,
about the
pizza.
same price, and you also are saving time, so it's a little more efficient.
yeah.
So sometimes I don't know, maybe it is, but I do like our taco nights. We're really
Well,
good
then-
Mexican cooks.
Then that's a keep. then that's a keep.
Then it's a keep. Taco
Right.
night stays, Angela.
Right.
All right, yay!
But the idea is not a drastic reduction, but it's like, people who maybe go out to eat go out to lunch every day of the week.
Right.
Instead of doing, people are like, I'm going to brown bag it this whole week. I'm going to brown bag
They
it
make
now.
it to Tuesday and they're done.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's like,
That's
how
so
about
true.
how about just trying to go down to 4 instead of 5? How about just start with that and see how that feels?
Yeah. Take it
Sounds
down
like
a
you're
bit.
saying changes in moderation.
That's exactly
what?
right.
Our culture is so like that, though. We go on a diet and we're like, I'm not going to eat anything for like a month. And you're like, that sounds like a terrible plan. You can't sustain that.
Yeah.
So it sounds like finance in moderation, too.
Finance
Just
in moderation.
Little changes so it doesn't
changes.
like overwhelm you.
Yeah. and if you still feel like you can have the same experience, whether it's going out to eat or on vacation or whatever, but you can do it for just like 20% less money and still have the experience, then that'll save you money.
Yeah.
And so that's a cutback category. So it's either a less expensive option or a cheaper alternative, doing it less often or even spreading things out. So like I used to get my haircut every 5 weeks, and now I get my haircut every 6 weeks. And so,
So the
doesn't seem
6th
like a
week,
lot.
you're a little scraggly, but you're
Right.
fine.
And
Just
I'm
a little more moose.
a little more moose.
A little more moose.
Actually, well, I'll get to this, but like it's gotten into the eliminate category. I actually cut my hair myself now. I don't know if you can
do
tell
your
the
own.
Oh, wow.
people that are
Wow.
watching. Guys, it's easy. I don't. We're kind of
How do you
lucky that
cut
way.
How
your
do you
own
cut your
hair?
own hair?
Well,
This
Like,
is
I'd
very
be like-
important to us
Like
now.
I'd be sitting there and getting it all crooked.
well, I use clippers.
Use clippers. Yeah,
Oh,
on the top.
okay.
Yeah, so I have like the one I can't cut anyone else's hair. I can only cut my own
You
hair.
can't see the
Yeah,
back.
you can't.
Well, I can feel because I've done it enough where I can feel on the back of my head where I need
Wow.
to stop.
And it looks pretty
We
good.
would. I didn't notice. Yeah, I wouldn't have noticed the difference.
Yeah.
I mean, and
can
these
say
days
that
they
you did.
there's
It's
the
okay.
whole.
I
No,
know a
it's-
lot of guys do that, actually. They'll just get the clippers, but they won't try to do it nice like that. They'll actually just do
Well,
it
maybe
bald.
just shave it all
They'll just do
off,
it to about
too.
Yeah.
a half an inch. Like a
yeah,
lot of
like
guys
crew
do
cut.
that.
You can easily
Yeah.
do a crew cut like that, and it grows out. But that's interesting.
Yeah, and if it looks bad, I'm just a hipster. So
Yeah,
Yeah,
there you go.
that's right. They all look kind of homeless, so it's totally fine. But I wasn't
Funny.
saying you looked homeless.
No, I
Sorry.
appreciate that.
Thank you.
Just
for
wanted to put
telling
that
our
out
guests
there.
that-
Next time I got my hair cut, we'll see.
We'll see.
It's hilarious.
So that's a cutback category. Eliminate are things that's just a total 100% reduction. It's the things, oftentimes when we're going through examining spending with couples, they don't even realize that they're still being charged for certain things. Or, it's funny, I mean, they can have something as big as like a $4,000 expense, like a check that they wrote, and it'll be 3 weeks ago, and they'll have absolutely no recollection of what it is. And you're thinking that's $4,000.
A lot of money.
Right. And so I'm not judgmental because I've certainly done stuff like that before. But
I don't write a lot of checks for $4,000. I think
no, but
I
like
would
for
remember that.
taxes or
Oh,
like,
yeah.
all of a sudden
We do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
maybe like a couple months down the road, you'd be like, what was that? What was that?
Paying off a car or something.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah,
a bigger
yeah.
expense. Yeah.
So there are some things that people, they just don't realize they're still spending money on.
Mm-hmm.
And then to me, it's like, if they regret it or feel guilty about it, or if it's counterproductive to their well-being, usually those are things, but it's up for them to decide what those things are.
Mm-hmm.
And then the biggest category that people forget about is just sort of like apathetic or habitual buying that doesn't really make them feel good or bad. but
like
they just-
Amazon.
Well, that could be good.
Like just getting anything on Amazon. You're like, okay, we need an extra bookend. Let's.
Well,
don't-
sometimes people will do budget shopping, like they'll go to like Goodwill because they're like, oh, this is all budget, but they don't need any of the stuff, and they'll bring home
Exactly.
these carts
Right.
of things
Or Costco.
because it was like cheap, And
Right.
they're like, it's on sale. I got 5.
I get 5,000 rolls of toilet
Yeah,
paper
yeah.
for $18 at Costco.
I saved so much money.
Save so much money spending all this
Well,
money.
I always thought that a good investment would be in forever stamps because they're supposed to stay the same, like they're always the same price, right?
Yeah.
So if you get them in the beginning and you just buy all the forever stamps, as the price just keeps going up, you have the same price of stamps.
Sure.
Well,
But how many stamps are you going to buy this year?
None. I'm just
Exactly.
saying, I had it in my mind like, this is
Sure.
gold. No, it's not gold. It's not a good investment strategy.
Well, I
people.
thought like when the economy was crashing, I was like, maybe we should just move all our money into stamps because like the price of stamps is always going up, but stocks are going down. So
Exactly. It might be.
let's
See, you
invest
had a
in
similar
stamps.
thought.
I didn't do it because that's crazy.
I didn't either, but you never know. Maybe one person is doing that and
Then
making
you
millions.
have to sell all the stamps. That's a lot of work.
They're under the table stamps,
I know a guy.
black market
I know a guy.
stamps.
Right. Forever stamps. Now they're like, I don't even know how 40 cents, but I'll sell them to you for 38.
Oh,
Yep.
yeah,
Oh
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
See. There you
I
go.
think
Got
I think
you.
Angela. Yeah.
So what do you
Save 2
eliminate?
cents.
Save 2 cents. You're really making a lot of money on this project.
Oh yeah.
Oh, well, so what kinds of things should people eliminate then?
Well, it's really up to them. So it's the things when they look through their spending, what the things that they find that they don't really care about, or things that actually like, I cannot believe I did that again.
Yeah, they feel like it's a waste of money. They didn't get what they wanted out of it.
Right.
Yeah.
And so this is all sort of an experiment too. So it helps. It immediately helps people get clarity on how to come up with money in a quick manner and it also changes the way they think about it in the moment. So when people once they go through this exercise, if they go out to dinner again, they'll be like, last time I remember that we spent, $70. We're going out to have a good time, but let's see if we can get it to 50.
Yeah.
We're still gonna have a good time. Maybe one less drink, maybe splitting an appetizer, maybe, an appetizer or dessert. But as long as you still feel like you're getting the same experience, because that's the thing, for it to be sticky, it has to be something that you decide. And that's been the real power of it, is not only is it simple, but it's actually been sustainable. The clients that I've worked with 6, 12 months later and beyond, they actually are still using it.
Oh, wow, cool.
And they don't feel bad about the stuff that they're spending money on before, that they normally feel guilty about, like buying a coffee every day, for example. The couples they're getting along even if they come from different backgrounds, financially and in terms of like mindset and perspective, and
sure.
So it's worked out really, really well. Like I said, the average client has cut their spending by 11%. They don't even miss it. So,
oh wow,
yeah,
That's nice.
yeah.
Well, I'm trying to think of the 11% of things we should be cutting back, man.
I have no idea what we would even cut. I know ways to cut back, but eliminate, that's a hard category.
Well, we have done it in some ways. Like, I know we couldn't care less about cable.
Yeah.
And so that was something we eliminated. We had it for his
We
father
have
when he
Netflix.
lived here, but now we just do Netflix. It's like,
Yeah.
we really don't care.
It's
We
like
don't watch any of that
$15.
stuff.
You're good.
Yeah, sometimes it's a gym membership or two. Sometimes people have 2 gym memberships and they don't go to either of them.
They
and
have
it's
2 gyms?
Two different gyms.
Yeah, some people
Who would
do.
do such a thing.
We have 1 gym
We have
membership.
one.
But we use it.
We do use
right.
it,
If you
though.
use it, then just keep
Yeah.
it. Some people, they're like, I haven't been to the gym in a year. It's like, well, you can always rejoin.
Yeah.
You're like,
Yeah.
that's the thing about this stuff. It's not
They
permanent.
just feel bad about it. Like, the
Yeah.
gym has a way of guilting you into sticking with them. They're like, oh, you don't want to be healthy.
Well, that's how they make. That's how gyms make money, is because they have membership that people pay on a monthly basis. But basically, a lot of people don't even show up.
Right. 90%. It's like a really high percentage
Yeah.
that don't show up.
They'll all show up in January.
January
and then
is
it's empty
always
in February.
packed. Every January I go there, all the machines are taken. By February, nobody's there.
Yeah, by the end of
Yeah.
January, even, I'm sure.
Yeah.
So, and so people can easily eliminate that, especially in the summertime, and you can always rejoin. They're always having specials.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
Well, and
something-
even
something
thinking,
like
I
that.
like that you're saying the summertime too, because sometimes you don't go to the gym as much in the warm weather. You just want to be
Yeah.
outside.
Oh, yeah,
like
we're
there are
outside a lot
times when
more.
we're going to the gym less in the summer. I
Yep.
mean, that happens all
That's
the time.
because we're out walking.
Because we're like,
in
I want to go
nature.
walk in the woods.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they don't have woods at the gym.
They don't. They should install woods.
They should-
Problem solved.
Woods Gym trademark.
There you go.
There you go.
Well, I've been in places where there's trees indoors. Like, you can do it. Like, have like a glass canopy above.
Yeah. Now we're thinking here.
Now
This
we're
is
thinking,
great.
This will work.
Well, so like one of the things that my couples will have struggles with is whether they should invest the extra money, whether they should save the money, whether they should pay off. Those are the top 3, like, what should we do fights? So I'm curious
that
what your thoughts are.
11%.
With the 11%, yeah.
Right.
what
Well,
do you
that's the
do
thing.
with
What do you
it?
do? What do you do with it? Right.
Now you can spend it.
Right.
Or should they spend it? Yeah,
So you
like
just-
I guess there's a 4th one I didn't put in there,
Yeah.
did I?
It's
Now
funny.
you can just spend it.
It's funny you say that, because when I simplify it for people, money can go to one of 4 places. You can save it, invest it, pay back debt, or spend it. Saving, investing, and even paying back debt, those build wealth. People forget that paying back debt is actually a wealth building activity. Spending is not. So that's why we have to make it count, right? In fact, one of my clients said, so basically what you're saying is, when I spend money, I'm transferring my wealth to somebody, else.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Yep.
And so
that's good.
That's how money works.
Right. So if you keep it, so that's why the 11% comes in. It's like, you could either give that 11% away that you don't need those other people to have, or you can keep it and build your own wealth. So then you ask the question: save, invest, pay back debt. What does that look like? So I have this. It's called a wealth builder roadmap, and it has a framework. Basically, there's a hierarchy of saving, investing, paying back debt. And if you go down the line, obviously, credit card debt would want to be paid back first.
Yeah, because they have the higher percentages,
Yep.
right?
Right, and
Right.
then any other debt or consumer debt, maybe above, like, I don't know, 5% would be next, and then on down. And mortgage would be one of the last things to pay off. And but the thing is, when you're looking at it all together, how do you mix that in with how much savings should I have in the bank at the same time, or if I have student loans, or if I have my employer match up my 401k, how do I mix that all in? So the way to look at it is really let's get people to be secure first, and security means having a little bit of money in the bank, like $2,000 to start, working down all the credit card debt that they can, and then if they have any extra money left over, it would be getting the maximum match from their employer's 401k. So for those of you who don't know, sometimes in a 401k it's a retirement plan where you can put money away, and oftentimes employers will match. So you put in 6% of your salary, they'll put in 3%.
It's free money.
Free money.
Yeah. That's
so-
pretty good turnaround right there.
So those are really like the first three things. Number one is $2,000 in the bank. Number two is paying off credit card debt, and those are the only two things that people should focus on if they have any credit card debt. And some people will say buying a house is like way down the line, right? Buying a house is taking on debt and having an extra expense, because even though we're taught like buying a house is an
It's a
investment,
liability.
It is a liability
because you have all these things
People treat it like
you
an
have
asset,
to fix.
but it's not.
right? And so people say, well, instead of spending all this money on rent, well then at least some of it will be going to build equity. But there's a lot of flaws in that thinking. I don't need to get too much into the weeds here.
Well,
but,
I mean, I know some I read a lot of finance books, and some finance people will say that like they won't buy a house; they will only do renting, because then they don't have to do any of the fixing of the house. They basically have the landlord do it. It's paid.
Yeah, people
and
think
some of them that's like their commitment. They will never buy a house for that reason.
Yeah, there's hidden costs of living in a house.
Yeah, I mean,
because
usually
people think, okay, this is how much my rent would be, or this is how much my mortgage would be.
And they think,
they're
and you
similar.
own it, so it's
And
like
you also
you're owning.
own it.
Yeah.
But the reality is, you also have repairs and maintenance.
And random shit happens to. Oh, I'm supposed to not cuss. Random stuff happens all the time. Like we had this one little pinhole, like
in a pipe,
and like over there on the other side of the basement
Flooded the
suddenly
wall.
got flooded, and we still haven't fixed it. I mean,
fixed
it's
it
not
partly.
like leaking anymore, but like
Yeah.
it used to look all like this, and it's like, come on, man. And then there's other things like we got to cut the tree and. Just little things here and there. And people don't think about that when they get a house.
Oh, I think about it.
You do every
I
day.
don't like owning a
He
house.
cries himself to sleep thinking about it.
Well, I like to think about it as a rental property. So, like, instead of buying their own house first, if they were to buy a house that they would rent to somebody else first, because then at least they're getting some cash flow. But also, you're seeing like how the numbers work. And generally, people who rent, you have to hold on to a property unless you're in a hot market. But you generally have to hold on to it for about 5 to 10 years until you start seeing some real profits come in. And so that's the way buying a home works too, is sometimes people, especially couples, when they have their first kid, they get the we need a bigger mentality, where we need a bigger car, we need a bigger house. And they may not need those things. And so I always tell couples to like wait a year, have the kid, absorb that expense of having the kid, and then think about
That would have been a
increasing
good
size.
idea. It's funny. We totally did that. Like we literally moved 3 months,
So
4 months.
our daughter
in.
was born in February, and then I had a spinal surgery in July, and we moved a month later.
Oh,
We
man.
put our house on the market thinking, oh, maybe it'll take a while. It sold the very
May.
next
It was
day.
May.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
It was
Yeah.
so crazy. And then
Yeah.
now we're in this house. But yeah, we totally did that exact
Yeah,
same
that
thing. 'Cause
was-
we were like, we need a bigger house. We can't live like this.
That was a very stressful month because, like,
I'm
there's
sure.
a
We're
lot
just recovering
going
from
on.
spinal surgery.
Yeah,
and
that was not good
moving.
timing.
poor
Oh, I
timing.
didn't-
What were
I
we
didn't-
thinking?
I was kind of glad because I didn't have to pick anything up. Like,
Yeah.
like I had a clear
He had an
excuse. I was
excuse.
like, no, I'm not supposed to pick things up. Clearly.
Yeah. No, but that's so interesting because we totally fell in that. I guess a lot of people do. Huh?
Oh yeah. No, I just wrote a blog post on the top 5 financial blunders that expecting parents make, and number 1 is that we need a bigger mindset.
Bigger, yeah.
And not to say it's a mistake, but because if someone
It's really
wants to
bad
do it,
timing, though.
It's bad timing
You
because
don't
there's
realize
all
how
this,
many
like
new
we were talking about
expenses.
earlier, the new expenses of having a kid, and there's also the new expenses of buying a house.
Yeah.
Because then all of a sudden you got all these repairs and other things to do. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
If you look at it, you got and then you have to move. Right.
And moving expenses.
So,
yeah.
and even when couples are they're getting married, they want to buy a house, like the starter house. I usually say, like, don't buy the starter house unless you know you're in the place where you think you're going to want to raise your kids.
Right.
Because, it's like, when
Or
you buy,
you'll end up selling it 2 years later and getting a new house.
right,
like
and
we did.
That's what we did.
no, but
Literally
I'm telling
2
you,
years.
Everybody does it.
Everybody does that?
Everybody
Really?
does
Okay.
it.
And so, yeah, and what happens is it's kind of like buying a house is kind of like buying a car, where
Yeah.
if you were to sell it, you have to pay real estate instead of depreciation on the car, 10% as soon as you drive off the lot. With a house, you have 6% that comes right off the top, because if you were to turn around and sell it, you have real estate agent fees and you have to pay 6%. So whatever you just paid for the house, the house has to grow in value to compensate for that.
Yeah. Luckily ours did. So.
Yeah, I
yeah,
mean,
actually, ours we
20%
didn't even have to
actually.
pay for this down payment because we bought our house
During the
recession,
recession,
and
then
then
it
when
went
we
way
up.
sold it way over. We actually like
20 grand.
put it like a higher fee than we thought we should have gotten, and it was so
sold the
crazy. It
first
sold
day.
so quick. So
Yeah.
it ended up being a good change, despite some of the extra
Stress.
costs you're describing, though, and the stress and like all
Yeah,
the
never
bad
buy a
things.
house.
the timing then was good. Like that, I would consider that an opportunistic investment. Like when you buy a house when
During
when
the
housing
recession,
market is crashing.
Because we could at that point. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, our house sat on the market for 9 months and no one wanted to touch it. We put it on a low ball bid and got it. And now, I mean, they were tearing down houses for more than what we paid for it.
Yeah.
So it's so that was a good time to buy.
Yeah.
There are rare cases. I don't want to talk people out of home ownership, but a lot of times people get there too quickly.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. You need to have a financial plan for it. Like,
Yeah.
That's the important thing.
Yeah.
And having a baby you need a financial plan for that too. So they're not a good timing.
Yeah,
To smash the two together.
Right. I mean, people who have
Don't
babies.
smash a baby with a house.
No, bad idea. Bad idea.
I think they send you to jail for that.
But yeah, so I mean, because
Fine.
you have like this $10,000 to $20,000 new expense in having the kid, plus the startup costs of like buying everything, and then you throw a house with a bigger mortgage payment typically, and you got to come up with the money for the down payment. Then you got to make it your own. You got to build the nursery, and then people buy a new car, and so they add another like $400 a month payment on top of that. And as soon as you know it, they're like, "What do we do?"
Yeah, minivans are expensive.
They are.
Yeah,
that's why we didn't get one.
totally thought about getting them, but then we were like, "That's way too
No,
expensive."
that's way too expensive.
And really, I mean, if you like,
I have an SUV. It works.
maybe it's like if people could just take a deep breathe for like a month or two
Yeah.
before
Yeah.
they make a decision,
And that's
so
what
they
we
can
did.
kind of like,
Like,
is
we
this
were
really
planning
what
to
we
buy a
need? Is this
minivan with-
really important?
Yeah, we were planning to buy a minivan, and we were like, okay, it's kind of expensive, so we just kind of sat on it and thought about it. And we're
learn
like,
to sit.
we
It's
can
like,
make
does it really
without
matter?
it.
And we
Yeah.
only have one kid. I mean, it's not like we have
Yeah.
to have 50 children in the back right now.
Right.
Right. When we had our third, I have 8 and 6-year-old boys and then an 18-month-old girl. And when she was born, I'm like, we can't fit all these car seats in the back.
Right.
And it turns out we could.
Oh, you
Oh.
could.
And so
just all three lined up.
I just didn't buy a new car. It's like,
There
well, I
you
can't
go.
drive
Yeah.
anyone around, but I'm driving kids around all day anyway, so I don't take adults around anywhere.
Yeah.
It's all kids.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So
works.
yeah.
Well, that works perfectly then.
3 car seats.
So what are some
That's
of
a lot
the
of kids.
yeah,
It
that is
is.
a lot of children.
It's,
What were
it's-
you
it's-
thinking?
It's very quiet back
Are you
there.
going for? It's quiet,
It's
is
so
it?
quiet. No.
Oh
no, it's
wow!
the
Yeah.
Oh, were you gonna ask if he's
planning
going
to
for
have
a
a fourth?
I think we're done.
You think you're done?
We
Yeah.
feel very fortunate.
you're good. You're
we're-
good at
we're-
3.
We're good to go.
You're good to go.
I think we're good at one. We were
Yeah.
like, do we want another? Do we not want another? But it's like it's so loud when you multiply them.
Oh, they're loud now.
Very
Just
loud.
One
Or
is
just
loud.
one is loud.
And wonderful. And wonderful.
And
Kids are great.
wonderful. Like, I love my daughter, and I would love if we had another one. But if we just don't have another one, I don't love it, so I don't have to worry about it.
That's true.
There you
just
go.
hold your
I'll just
withhold
give
your
her
love.
all of my love. Done. And only children always turn out wonderful, anyway.
Yeah, I hear they're not weird at all.
No, not at all. They're not spoiled.
No, they'll be fine. Well, whatever. We want a spoiler. I like her
Yeah.
and stuff.
Yeah.
Well, so like, what kinds of values do people bring that sometimes make it difficult for them to like? Are there
To
ever
fit to that.
like to
keep,
fit to
cut
this?
back,
Because like,
eliminate.
You mean
know,
like family history?
yeah, like family history, things that people are like, this is what's supposed to happen with money, and you're doing everything against what I believe in, or whatever.
Like,
Yeah,
what
I'm
if
sure that
somebody
has to
puts
happen.
everything in the keep category? Like,
yeah.
everything
oh,
has
yeah.
to be kept.
I want to hear the conflicts.
Well, then I would send them to a therapist like Angela.
Like Angela, she's a keep
I don't
everything.
want to keep everything. We got rid of the cable. I don't care.
That was one thing.
But I do want to keep the massages, the travel, and the painting.
Well, the painting's not expensive.
Yeah, continue. What were
Yeah,
you
no,
gonna say?
I mean that.
Hobbies, yeah.
This is not an atypical conversation. Like this is how
Yeah.
it goes. I mean, I'd say so. I mean, none of us marry our own carbon copies, right? I mean,
Mm-hmm.
no one marries someone that's exactly the same, thinks exactly the same,
a little bit.
and it makes life fun and exciting at the same time.
Yeah.
But it also and it creates
Creates
balance
conflict,
and
yeah.
it creates conflict, especially the most typical thing we see are people coming from different money values. So the most common example is like one's a spender, one's a saver, right?
Yep.
And so the spender wants to spend, live in the moment, and the saver wants
Carpe diem.
Carpe diem. Oh, look at this on Amazon. Like I'm going to pick that up.
Or they
whatever.
want to stuff it all away into a bank.
Yeah, or you go
That's
to
my
Target.
side.
You go
Yeah,
to
everyone
Target
to
and figure
spend
that
it all.
out.
Something wrong with your headset?
Yeah, it's just hurting my ears. It
Okay.
does the thing where I'm like, I'm done with the
You
headphones.
don't have to have it on.
Your experience, you can know if
I
you're
can
speaking
hear
to the
and
mic.
see what's going
Yeah,
on.
you can hear us.
And then the other person is a saving mindset where they're sort of like the long term. Usually they have like a long term wealth bend where it's like every dollar we spend is a dollar that isn't growing our wealth, but they take it to the. It seems extreme to their
To
partner.
the other person, yeah.
Oh, I've definitely seen that where like it feels like they can't spend anything or enjoy anything, and it can cause some resentment actually. Because I mean, if you're only saving everything and you don't have any opportunity to enjoy your money, I mean, how long can you live like that before you want to kill somebody, like physically?
So
throwing
far,
it out
we've made
there.
it 11 years.
Yeah.
But we get to spend.
Yeah.
Right.
No, I don't advocate for murder people. By the way, I'm just saying I can imagine that feeling.
Wait. You don't advocate
I do
for
not
murder.
advocate for murder. That is not
That-
part of my platform.
That is a strong stance to take, but I'm proud of you for taking it.
I'm on board with that.
okay. No murder.
No
All right.
murder. You're silly.
But I mean the mindset that you're talking about, Angela, is very, very common. And like I said, the budgeter, sort of like, has their Excel spreadsheet up and like counting every dollar. There's plenty of those around, and they tend to marry each other. And so there's a middle ground there, and the middle ground comes from making sure that number one, they have to get in touch with that. Like they may not understand why I don't know, travel is or massages manifest to someone as like the thing that
Very
they really
important.
enjoy or
Yeah.
very important. Like massage, that's like $60 every time you go. So that but they don't understand that's like, oh, but you buy games with the latest electronic gadgets and that's
Right.
your thing.
Right.
And so once I have an understanding that I get I get the same satisfaction that from this as you get from that. That helps like at least comment so they can have a rational
Right.
discussion
Or
about
like,
it.
you have that. I want this. Yeah.
Right,
It's
exactly.
like you still want something that makes you happy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then what they can do is start working on like the most important thing is like take everything that everyone thinks is a keep out of the argument to start and just work on cut back and eliminate
In
together.
the other areas.
Because there are things that people can agree on, and once they get that agreement and they start seeing some changes, then they can start, making things like improving their financial situation, improving their relationship, and things like that too. So it starts with that, and then the other thing is, the budgeter really wants to like sit down for an hour in front of the spreadsheet, go through the budget with their spouse or partner.
And it's really out of their comfort zone usually, right? Like,
Yeah.
They're just like they don't even know what's going on, so
They're
they
like-
almost shut
they
down
feel like
looking
they're at a
the
lecture.
budget.
Yeah,
They're-
like what are these numbers?
I've seen this. Yeah,
Yeah.
where my couples were like they just don't know anything about it. So even the language turns them off.
Yeah.
Like they're like, I don't just do whatever you need to do, and that's what ends up happening.
And then they
Exactly.
don't feel like they have control in it, and then they
And then they get mad
resentful.
again, and they're like, why can't we ever go on a trip, or why can't we ever do a massage?
it's because you're not good at Excel.
Exactly.
You need to take a class, honey.
Exactly.
But normally there's one financially dominant person in the relationship, and it's either out of control or it's out of reluctance, right? Like the other person, I don't want to do this. I don't want to sit down and talk numbers. So like I'm not a numbers person. People tell
Right.
themselves.
So one person ends up having to deal with all the finances.
Yeah, so I have a weekly spending review that I have couples do. They sign up for Mint or some budgeting tracking software.
Mint?
I like Mint.com is one of the better ones because it's pretty robust in its reporting, and it's also it's really easy to kind of like it's like aggregates all the spending from the bank accounts and credit cards
Oh,
and everything.
nifty.
And so what I have people do is just a 5-minute weekly spending review. My wife and I do it every week, and you just go down, you just look at the transactions and just you'd say, okay, here's where the money went this week. You don't have to categorize. You don't have to figure it out. You just awareness, right? Getting in touch with it in an unintimidating way. And then there's a trends section where you look at the trends and you can see like your spending for the month or your net income for the month. And you can see, okay, well, we're this much so far, and here's how much we have left until we're in the red. And they don't have to make any choices about it. It's just to be aware. Now, the budget person can go back and really love this tool and like do everything they want. But for the purposes of the weekly spending review, it gets the person who doesn't want to really look at the numbers to just spend 5 minutes with their spouse or partner, like talking about the numbers, looking at just
Being
gaining
involved
awareness,
somehow.
being
Yeah.
involved. And there's some bills, in some households, one person pays all the bills and the other person has absolutely no idea how much things cost. So it helps both understand like how much do things really cost? How much does the pest control cost? How much does mowing the lawn cost? How much are our utility bills on a regular basis? And we see it especially with like our parents' generation and beyond, where like the females, the women typically have absolutely no idea where the money's going. And then if they're in an unfortunate situation where they become a widow, they have absolutely no idea what to do.
Yeah, that's something I worry about. Like, I generally deal with all the finances, so I worry, like, if I ever died, I don't think she'd know how to even pay the mortgage.
Yeah,
Well, I have
hopefully
the
it happens.
bills.
No, they don't send a bill.
They
See,
don't. They have
you-
the little booklet, right?
have the
That they
booklet.
send us. They send it every
Okay,
year. I'm aware
so
of
you
stuff.
might figure it out.
I just don't want to do it, but I do know. I love finance, actually. But I was thinking, that skill from a therapeutic standpoint, the observe skill actually is transferable to a lot of problems. Like when you get people working on their weight, their job is to observe just the calories they're taking in. Or if you're getting people working on like anger, for example, they may observe their moods. Like when do I tend to get angry? When's this happening? So like that's actually a pretty decent therapeutic skill because it automatically gets people being more conscious and they'll start like if you get them
just
doing
being
this,
more
just
conscious
in a
of your
week.
calories
Yeah.
or your spending makes you more aware how maybe you're overdoing it in a certain
It
area.
makes you naturally pull back
Yeah.
a little bit because you're like, oh, I didn't realize I had spent like $50 on coffee this
It's like,
week.
how do we spend $800 a month on candy? We don't, but
We don't, but you could.
But
I
you
mean, our
could.
daughter would definitely enjoy
our
that amount of
daughter
candy.
is all about the candy at this age.
Oh,
She's only potty training for Skittles right now.
yeah,
That is
that's it. If there's no candy involved,
There's
she
nothing in it. She will
she's
pee
shut
herself.
down.
I had a friend who she would have like Matchbox cars, and every time her son would go in the potty, she'd give him a Matchbox car, but he would go a little bit and then hold it, and then a half hour later go again. And
So you're getting like 5 a day.
yeah, exactly.
What a smart kid.
Kids
Well,
are very smart.
They
They
say
are.
people respond to incentives, so
That's
he is
true.
intelligent.
Well, that's the only way we could get her back on there. It's like she would
it's
not
true.
do
She
it.
hates the potty, but if she gets Skittles,
Well,
then
you got to
maybe
think of
she'll
it
sit
from
on
her
there.
point of view. Like her whole life, she's not had to worry about it. She just takes a
Yeah.
crap, and then somebody else cleans it up.
Yeah,
And now all of a sudden, you want her to be involved?
Yeah,
I'm
we
not-
are
I'm not-
taking
What's
her out
her
of the lap of luxury,
yeah,
I guess.
yeah. What is her incentive to do it? What's her incentive to change? Nothing,
Nothing.
except
I don't know.
Yeah.
This
Well,
is why it's such a difficult
well, maybe
topic.
maybe when she turns 13, there'll be some peer pressure or something like that. It's just,
Social shame. Avoid social shame.
yeah, like my sons, it's like hey, you can't just be wearing a diaper when you're 13 years
Yeah.
old. You just can't.
yeah, they
Yeah.
frown upon that in middle school when you're crapping yourself in biology
They.
class.
I wouldn't know.
Yeah, me
I
either.
see.
Me either
So-
at all.
Well, see, I could imagine it. Like, I've definitely seen it hard for some of my clients who are those like really tense budgeters that even if and maybe I'm not using the same approach here, but like they just really can't spend. And I don't know if you've seen these people where they literally will save until they retire, and then when they retire and they're supposed to be spending
They
the money
die?
and having fun, they still can't.
They're still
not
budgeters?
traveling. They're still not doing any of the fun stuff. It's like
So they're
it's like
misers.
they're almost debilitated by the money.
It cripples them.
It does.
Well, some people
The
look at
fear of not having money
Yeah.
drives them to constantly
But there's
be
no
saving.
amount that can fill the void.
And they probably grew up-
I've seen this.
Somebody like that probably grew up very poor.
I could
mean,
imagine maybe
it's-
worrying if we're going to have a meal on
Sure.
different times. You want to always have
Exactly.
as much money as possible.
Exactly.
But I feel like it goes to the extreme at times.
It does.
Well, and
Yeah.
plus, once you live your life a certain way, I mean, you're not going to change when you turn 60. Just
Yeah.
because if you haven't been a spender, then typically you're not going to be a spender.
Yeah.
And some people look at the wealth; they like the satisfaction of seeing their bank account grow to a certain amount,
Oh,
or their
yeah.
investments grow to a certain amount, and that to them is like I've made it. Like I have $1 million in the bank,
It's that safety.
as opposed to like,
Of
hey, I went
seeing,
to this.
like I have
Yeah.
100,000 in the bank. I feel safe knowing that's there or something.
Yeah, well, maybe
exactly.
it's bringing
Or a
happiness. If it's a need.
So just having $1 million makes you happy, not spending it.
It actually does not. It's proven that it actually
It
does
doesn't.
not.
No,
It does
no.
not.
They say making over 80,000 a year up to that point, more money makes you happy. After that, it's all just it doesn't change.
Yeah, I'd say
itself.
80,000 is about what
So,
people need.
money
have
does
a
bring you
house,
happiness
Have a few vacations
to a
here
certain
and
point.
there. But beyond it, it just feels like a rat race for people, and having
Yeah.
a little bit more doesn't necessarily add to people's happiness.
No.
Yeah, it looks like a frown face. It's like if you don't have enough, obviously you're stressed and in a
Yeah.
bad situation. If you have too much, it makes things complicated, and you don't really know who your friends are. And I mean,
I'm okay with
Yeah.
trying that. It's like if I could just have millions of dollars, I'd be okay with trying it out. I'll see how happy.
That's
I
why
can
your
make
second
it.
choice career is to be independently wealthy.
Yeah.
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 We're
That's-
gonna do the
I
first
think that's
choice
most people's goal is independently wealthy. There you go. Yeah.
We'll see if that happens, right? That's funny.
Yeah. So what were you?
I was asking about values and stuff, but do you have a question you want to ask?
So what if have you ever had a client come in and they put everything in the keep category?
Most don't, because they kind of recognize that. But the way that we look at it with Mint especially is you can aggregate all your transactions by merchant, meaning like you'll see all your Amazon purchases and all your Target purchases, but only in one line item, and or like Whole Foods or Target or whatever the case may be. And so they'll see like I spent that much there. I know I can do better. It's almost like the number combined with how they know their shopping experience goes.
Because they're at Whole Foods. I mean.
Yeah. I mean, there are conflicts. I mean, I've had couples really argue in front of me.
Yeah.
And they were out of town and they were seeing a therapist. So, but they had other issues. But they had the argumentative cycle about the spending, and there's blame and shame and all this stuff. But so it does get. There are things that I know when I'm over my skis, and I know when they need to see a professional to talk about.
Yeah, definitely. It's like you need to see
You guys
Angela.
have problems.
Yeah.
Right. But
You've had people. How many times have you had that happen? Like people just start arguing in front of
a
you?
lot.
A lot. Yeah.
But by the end, I mean, most couples, even if they're not overtly arguing, sometimes they have, very poor body
Stiffness,
language toward each other. Maybe they're like not facing each other, not making eye contact. Maybe they. It just doesn't look like they're
watching
on the
you.
and then by the end of the conversation, you can see not only in the financial transformation, but like the relationship transformation, because they are, maybe he puts his arm around her, or they're holding hands, or they're smiling and laughing and joking.
They seem like they might like each other a little bit.
Yeah, because they're working together, and they have a mediator, moderator, someone, a third party to take a look and say like, this is okay. I know this is okay for you. This is okay for you. And now they have tools to work on it together.
Yeah, we
nice.
actually do the same thing. I'll watch, like, when people first come in therapy, they sit on the opposite ends of the couch, but you know that they're starting to get better as they sit closer and then maybe hold hands or smile and laugh.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, the truth is, like, even in my field, I do sex therapy, and sex is the same thing that's happening for them, as it feels like this thing that they're blaming, they're shaming each other, and really they just need to be able to approach it as a team,
Yeah.
Well,
Sex kind of is a team sport.
While yes, it is a team sport. That's part of the challenge. Is they
Although
get
there
into
is
this
some solo
pursue or
qualifiers.
withdrawer cycle where one
Yeah.
person is like always trying to have sex and the other person's avoiding it, and it's not us as a team working on this. And I can imagine a similar thing with finances where it's like, you're always spending too much, and it's like, hey, stop telling me what to do. You're not my dad.
You're not my dad.
Yeah. It's funny. It's funny about money.
I have had that.
Yeah, we've
You
had it.
said
We've had
you're
it.
not my dad.
It's funny about like money and sex, because money is something that I feel like couples, like, they're supposed to feel like they have under control and have like they're really supposed to have a good handle on it and know how to work
Money?
together as a team. Yeah, money. But with
I don't think anybody does.
but that's what they feel that they should.
Okay,
they
yeah.
feel like they should have the
Oh,
money.
so
in
it's
order.
almost even worse
Like
because you're supposed to do
Right.
this, and yet you
We're
can't.
adults. We're supposed to be able to control our finances and really be able to pay the bills and make it all.
We're adults,
Right.
we're supposed to be able to enjoy sex, and this isn't supposed to be difficult. When actually 1 in 2 couples is struggling with low desire. It's pretty common, actually.
Yeah, I mean, with sex, it's like some people are like have the notion that we can't talk. It's awkward to talk about. It's just so we just avoid that because it's awkward, and I don't know.
Same
it's
thing with money.
uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Right? But with money, there's like the added thing of, I mean, couples probably think they should be having sex more. At least one of the two probably does, right? And that's where you.
It's
That's where you
always
come in.
yeah.
Right.
And then, but with money, it's like, oh, we should be doing this. It's almost like dieting, where there's this sort of like, I know I should be eating better, and I just can't get myself to do it, and they feel terrible. Where with sex, if they're not having sex, it might be okay. They might not feel like they should be having more,
Right.
or at least one of them.
No, everybody feels like they should be having more sex because culture shows sex so romantically, and
Yeah.
like with people having just amazing desire and falling into bed all the time. So we're not seeing practical versions of sex and what that looks like. And so everybody feels like there's something wrong with them. They're abnormal. The first 6 months to 2 years is when sex is easy for everyone. And then after that, it's something you have to put work into. And since people don't know that as well, then they'll feel like, oh my gosh, what's wrong with us? Why are we not in love the way we once were? Or why are we not feeling that same sense of lust? And I'm like, well, you're kind of normal. How do we work with it as a team? Because they are. And I think the same is true with finances. Is they're perfectly normal. It's actually pretty challenging. You said only 5% of people are doing very well with the whole budgeting thing, and it's the primary mode that people are using.
Yeah.
So you're not abnormal. I
You're
just
not
want you guys
abnormal.
to know it's okay.
You're all terrible at money, and you all struggle with sex.
Yep.
There you go.
No, it's really true.
I mean, this is probably just coincidental, but there's this inverse relationship of like, sex to talking about money. Like when couples start out, they don't talk about money and they have a lot of sex. And then as they talk more about money, they have less and less sex.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Oh, I bet.
I have definitely, anecdotally, I have seen that 100%. The more we talk about money, the less sex we have.
Yeah.
Because generally you're talking about money because you don't have a lot of it.
Well, not necessarily. I mean, people who have plenty or they're on top of it, it's like a regular practice, like sex, like you talking about it on a regular basis, having the weekly
Makes it
review.
more normal.
It makes it more normal. Makes like have a more hearty relationship, right?
Yeah. That's cool.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So make sure to have sex, but also talk about money. That way
Maybe have sex on money, and then it'll be all fixed.
Ah, there we go.
I think
Just like put dollar bills on your bed.
You could like do the weekly review after sex so that everyone's like really relaxed and feeling satisfied. And,
or
like,
if you can't afford dollar bills, you can throw nickels.
Nickels.
Yeah.
Nickels.
A pile of nickels.
That might just be uncomfortable.
I'm trying to imagine it right now.
Cold change all over my body.
Oh no! Make it rain.
No, you're making it hail.
I love it.
That's
Well, it might
hilarious.
make it a more fun experience. I mean, how many people have actually had sex on money? I don't know.
I don't know. I think we've made out on money.
Yeah, probably.
But then I was like, I don't want to lose the money, so I
let's
put it
put
up.
this back in our wallet.
That was actually our wedding night because people gave cash for the wedding, so we threw it on the
we
bed.
totally did that. I
Like,
forgot.
But then I
So
made sure to
weird.
collect
He's
it.
like,
and
no,
put it
I don't
up.
want to
Yeah,
lose
I don't wanna
this in the
lose that.
sheets.
You never know what crevasse it might get lost in. Okay, so that about wraps it up for us today. You want to plug your website? What is your website?
Yeah, sure. So I have a couple different resources for people that they can access on the website. So it's familybudgetexpert.com.
Familybudgetexpert.com. So what can they get there?
So if they go to the website, I have free training on the Keep, Cut Back, Eliminate technique that they can sign up for, get for free. And there's also a way to get in touch. If they go to familybudgetexpert.com/get-in-touch, it'll bring up the contact form and they can reach out to me. Most people don't like to dive right into money, so I do have a free 30-minute discovery session to figure out, okay, what do we need to talk about? What are the issues that you're having? How can I help? Can I help? Is it a good fit? And in 30 minutes, we can get to all that before diving in. So they can go to familybudgetexpert.com/get-in-touch for that, or just go to familybudgetexpert.com and get everything you need there.
You can find it there.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Sounds good.
Well, thanks so much for having me. This has been a lot of fun.
Thanks for being here.
Cool,
Yeah.
very much.
What about you, Angela? You got something coming out right now? You have a book out, don't you?
I have a book out. It's called Helping Couples Overcome Infidelity, and it's on Amazon. And basically, I'm just covering some of the milestones that a lot of couples have to go over to work through infidelity. And the other thing I'm doing is a webinar for AAMFT. You can find it actually on aamft.org. And this is called an advanced look at poly and kink relationships. And I'm going to teach some skills for people who are interested in that lifestyle or therapists who are interested in helping people in that lifestyle. And it's just going to be an interesting, more advanced look at open relationships.
That's
Consensual
awesome.
non-monogamy.
Oh, no. All these technical
I hear it's
terms.
a thing. Yeah. And then, of course, you can see me as a therapist at www.therapistinstlouis.com.
And this has been the About Sex podcast. And we've been talking with
Robert Bertman.
Robert Bertman. Be sure to add us on Facebook, review us on iTunes, and send us your questions to aboutsexpodcast@gmail.com. I'm Joshua Skirtu.
And I'm Angela Skirtu.
Stay kinky, St. Louis.